Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to Season 2 of the Ottercar AI Racing Series. Today, going international for the second time here in the league, and it certainly will not be the last here for this season, because today we are here in the United Kingdom for the rant I fucking hate Oulton Park Grand Prix here at the Oulton Park circuit. Currently running at one of its 8 different layouts here, but they're all pretty similar to each other, so we're not going to go into the finer details of things here. Today, here at the International without Britain's chicane layout, because they got to get real specific with this. Pretty much every single chicane on this track, there's a layout for every possible combination for it here. This track opened up back in 1953 by the Mid Cheshire Car Club. First time Ottercar has been here, and first time Ottercar has been out to the UK, but it will not be the last time, as here in a couple of weeks, going to be heading to the Silverstone circuit out in the playoffs for the Airport Ham-Chester-Shireworth Grand Prix. This track has a lot of history, though. It's been around since the 1950s, known for a whole lot of completely blind high-speed corners. So this is a track where these drivers are really going to have to absolutely commit here. This track in the real world also has hosted primarily British F3 and touring cars and also a lot of club racing. But they've also hosted the International Gold Cup a couple of times, which was a non-points paying Formula One race back in the 70s and 80s. Drivers currently working on putting their qualifying attempts in the books, and I'll tell you what, race fans, right now it's looking like everyone is struggling here a little bit. I don't think a single driver has actually managed to put a time in so far. Let's take a look around here. Has anyone successfully turned a qualifying lap here today? No, they have not. So we might be about to see a little bit of a repeat of the situation we had back at Road America for the Cheese Rubber Grand Prix. And I believe also the Shard of Texas, we ran into this issue back at Circuit of the Americas, where these drivers just could not turn a single qualifying lap to save their lives. And looking around the field, it's looking like that might be exactly how things go. Currently looking down at that 800 of D down at their qualifying attempt here. Will they be able to make it around the track? That is the big question that is on everyone's minds. Will a single driver be able to make it around the track? The answer is yes. Some of these drivers are starting to set down complete lap times. I didn't think it was possible, but they're actually managing to do it. Deeg, on the other hand, not quite so much. That's going to be another invalidated lap for the number 800. Everyone gets 2 laps to qualify, and so far no one, except for the folks on your screen right here, have managed to actually complete a time. Right now it's going to be Sarkin putting himself up on the pole here in the 901 machine with a 141.10. And sure enough, he's going to go off the track as well, so much for that. I mean, he doesn't get any damage. He keeps it rolling. That's half the battle, but that will be invalidating his second lap time. So qualifying is going to be really rocky here, because I imagine we're going to see a lot of drivers that just straight up aren't able to set a time, period. And if that's the case, then we're going to have another weird situation where the blocker cars start in the middle of everyone, because some people manage to set a time, some people not quite so much. But we're going to let it run for a while. We're going to see what these drivers are able to pull off in their very limited driving capacities here. So this lap that Sarkin's working on right now should be invalidated because he did go off the track down into turn 5 over by Lakeside. So this lap I don't think is going to be counting for the 901 right now. But still going to attempt to complete the lap. No, he's not. He's just going to bring it straight on down to pit lane. He's not even going to bother trying to complete lap 2. He knows it's been invalidated. He knows it's not going to happen. And looking around the field, drop table roster able to make an improvement on his second lap. That's going to bump him up to 13th with a 144.94. And it looks like Ash in the 030 machine is the only driver still on the track attempting to put in a qualifying time right now. Ash, one of the drivers, currently locked in to the playoffs. And of course, we only have two, well, including this week. Well, never mind, Ash is going to invalidate that lap, no big deal. But including today, that we only have 2 weeks left before the playoffs begin. So only 2 more opportunities for drivers to actually lock themselves into the playoffs. Then the rest of the way down, it's going to be done based on the current championship points. So coming into today's event, currently, the way the playoffs are shaping up right now, thirds Ash, and Rally have locked themselves in based on wins. Then going down the points list is going to be Dwayne Day, August, Ashley, Chris Cox, Madcap, Ame Sakaramori, Queen Amatrine, and Sarkin filling out those remaining 8 playoff spots. So if we see another repeat winner here today, then it's still going to be coming down to the championship standings for these next couple of weeks. But if we get a new winner, we will have the opportunity for someone to potentially lock themselves in and not have to worry about next week. Of course, there are playoff points being awarded for finishes, so even if you're already locked in, you are still getting a little bit of benefit from having solid runs. Like right now, looks like the driver with the most playoff points naturally is thirds right now, since she has 2 wins to her name. That's going to be Ash with 26, Ash with an E with 18. But I think really what's more interesting is that the drivers that aren't locked in right now are all over the place with their playoff points right now. So it'll be really interesting to see how these drivers get seeded out once the playoffs actually begin, with those reset point totals plus the playoff points these drivers have been earning. Now just currently waiting for Ash to complete his qualifying lap, and actually gonna bring it on down to pit lane. We do have a couple of other cars still out on the track. Valnar still out there attempting to put down a qualifying time. It looks like he has been unsuccessful in every attempt so far, but they're still letting him go. They're letting him try again because he has not actually crossed the start-finish line to complete a lap. So technically, he still has both of his opportunities here, but I don't quite think that he's going to be able to set down a competitive qualifying time. We're already nearly 6 minutes into qualifying. Everyone else has put things together here, and they're now just waiting for a final handful of competitors to put their times down. Zoe also attempting to qualify. She just went off the track in her qualifying attempt in that 666 entry. So that will be invalid. Okay, well, we're just kind of driving wherever we want now, apparently. That's going to invalidate the qualifying time for the 666 entry. Bloody Wolf also going off the track in qualifying, so that's going to be another lap invalidated. Right now we have 4 drivers left on the track. Valnar, Bloody Wolf, August, and actually also Zoe, so a little bit more. August also going off the track. These drivers are really struggling to put down a qualifying time here this evening. This should not be as difficult as it is. Well, we're going to let these drivers have their full attempts. We're not going to advance it until everyone has completed both of their laps, invalidated as they may be. I do want to see if anyone is able to actually put something together here of these remaining couple of drivers. It's looking like Sarkin is going to be pretty comfortably on the pole here this evening in that 901 machine now. I don't think any of these 3 remaining drivers are going to be able to actually contest that lap time. So still following along with that 21 of August. A little bit of a bump there. Heading down through 10 and 11. I think this should be a valid lap. If I'm not mistaken, I think this one is going to be valid. Let's see what it is when we cross the line. That'll be good enough for 14th for that 21 machine. He's going to be setting down a 146 flat, which is about 5 seconds off the pace from our pole qualifying time right now. So that just leaves Zoe, Bloody Wolf, and Valnar out on the speedway. Let's see how Blue's doing in that number 93 machine. I think this lap's going to be invalidated. Yeah, he's slowed it down here. He's just bringing it down to pit lane. Zoe's still up at race speed, though, in the 666 entry. She might be getting ready to put down an actual lap time here. Going to be 22 laps for our main event once we actually get this race running. And Zoe's going to be abandoning that qualifying attempt as well, so that just leaves Valnar. Will we see Valnar also abandoning his final qualifying attempt? I don't think that his last lap was invalidated, so Val should be able to actually put down a lap time here, if I am not mistaken, in the 776 entry. And sure enough, he's going to keep it out on the track. Let's see what this does for Valnar, who has not successfully set a time. It's going to be invalidated again. So he did get an off track somewhere that I did not see. I'm not sure why Zoe is back out on the track now that her qualifying attempt is over. We're going to give it just a minute here. August should be just bringing it back to pit lane now. So we're just going to give it another minute here to have everything get completed here, because I don't want to accidentally advance it and then find out someone still had a qualifying attempt left to do. But the only two cars left on the track now are the 666 of Zoe and the 776 of Valnar. And Zoe's at race speed, so it seems to me like she's trying to set down a qualifying time, even though she's already completed her 2 attempts in the 666, and they were both invalidated for going off the track. So I don't quite know what the strategy here is for that Arch Linux 666 entry. We're just going to have to wait a moment and see, I guess, because as far as I can tell, this lap is not valid. She's already completed her qualifying attempt. There's no reason for her to be trying it again. And sure enough, she was just at race pace to go back down pit lane. Valnar going to be going back down in pit lane as well. So qualifying is now in the books one way or another. And we can go ahead and advance ourselves to the race event here. And I believe we may be cursed with a full pace lap here at Oulton Park. I'm not 100% sure if they allow short pace laps here. We're going to have to see where they actually line the field up to get ready to go racing here. Drivers making their way down to the starting grid now, and sure enough, okay, so we do have a short pace lap here at Oulton Park. That at least is nice to see. Let's take a look at how things will be shaken out for round number 6 of the season here at Oulton Park. Sarkin in the 901 taking the pole here, having the best start so far of his career in that 901 machine. And speaking of drivers having really good runs that traditionally have not done so hot so far here in season number 2, Madcap in the number 38 going to be starting off position number 2. Third place going to go back to the 030 machine. That's going to be Ash, followed by the 88 of Ashley, also getting, I believe, her best start here in season number 2. Fifth place going to go back to one of those hybrid development team drivers. That's going to be the 26 of Rally, one of our drivers locked into the playoffs, followed by the 69 of Chris Cox starting to their outside. Back in 7th place, that's going to be the 1 machine of Med, followed by the 11 of Ash with an E. And then back in 9th, it's going to be one of the Kill the President drivers. That's the 330 of Lake, followed by the 985 of Jeremy Albertson, rounding out your top 10. 11th, going to go back to the 420 machine of Oh You Know, followed by Ame Sakaramore, rounding out position number 12. Back for row number 7 is going to be the 369 of Drop Table Roster, followed by the 21 of August back in 14th. 15th going to go back to our only repeat winner so far here in Ottercar Season 2. That's going to be the 3 machine of thirds. Then it's going to be the limited time 44 McDonald's McRib, starting off in position number 16. 17th going to go back to the 818 of MF Beatus, who is unfortunately at the very bottom of our championship standings right now coming into tonight's event. Back at 18th going to be the 4 machine. That's Dwayne Day out of Brazil, rolling it off position 18. Row 10 going to be the 12 of Pav in the Shelter for Strays racing team, and the 777 entry of Sarah Something back in 20th. 22nd going to be going back to the 7 of Kevin 11. We've officially gotten back to the drivers who were unsuccessful in both of their qualifying attempts, and that's going to be Kevin 11, followed by the 666 of Zoe and the 776 of Valnar in 23rd and 24th. Then going further back, going to be the 93 of Bloody Wolf, starting back in 25th. Queen Amatrine, sponsored by Riot Games, back in 26th in the 37 machine. 27th, going to go back to the 800 of Deeg. And it looks like, sure enough, everyone else is just a blocker car. So that's how we're going to be rolling things off here for the I Fucking Hate Oulton Park Grand Prix, courtesy of Reddit. Green flag up in the air for the first time here. Let's see what these drivers are able to do at this 2.69. It's at 2.69 or 4.73 kilometer speedway. So far, so good. Down through Old Hall, heading down into Cascades now. Returns 2 and 3. Everyone looking mostly A-okay. Sarkin's fallen back a couple of positions here. It's going to be Madcap and Ashley leading the way now as we head down through Lakeside down into turn 5. So far, everyone has been a lot more behaved on their initial lap of the actual race than any of them were in qualifying. I say that we have a driver off the track. That is the 3 machine of thirds getting shunted off. She's going to have to bring it to a stop to let the field by, and that's going to send her back to the tail end of the field. It looks like she has been punished for her crimes of winning multiple times in a row. Take a real quick look back at this, see what all went down, and doesn't look like there was any sort of contact. It seemed like she just overdrove the corner here a little bit. Another driver off the speedway, that's the number 2 of Ame Sacramore. Looks like no damage on that 2 machine, just again bring it to a stop to let the field by. Jumping back up to the front here, here's the battle. This is for 4th on back through 8th, currently being led by the 030 of Ash. As by Ottercar standards, this has been a relatively clean first lap. As we get ready to complete our first lap of the race, we have trouble potentially. No, looks like everything's a-okay. We got a notification that Pav had just crashed, but it looks like things are a-okay for Pav. As lap number 1 here in the books at Oulton Park. We might potentially have trouble for Kevin 11 as well, as sure enough he's going to overdrive the corner going down into turn 1, and that's going to be hard damage on the front nose of the number 7 machine. We might end up having to throw the caution for that if he ends up taking the tow here. Up the front, he's going to take the tow, and our race leader of Ashley's also gone off the speedway. Hard impact for the driver of the 88, and somehow she is still in the lead. But the caution flag is going to have to come out for the incident with Kevin 11, so that caution flag is going to fly here. Not quite sure what happened to that 88 to cause all of that damage there, so we're going to have to take a look back here in just a minute to see what all actually went down there. You know what, let's take a look back, try and figure out what all's going on, because that was a very hectic lap number 3. So first, let's go back and look at what happened to Kevin 11. This is actually what brought the caution flag out, as he had to take the tow back to pit lane here in that 7 machine. Just way overcooking the entry to Old Hall, and not a whole lot that could be done about that. Completely smashed up the front end of that thing, broke off the left front quarter panel, and he ended up having to take the tow down to pit lane. So that was the official cause of the caution. But then at the same time, while that was happening, there was a battle going on between Ashley and Sarkin for the race lead. And Ashley, oh, okay, well, bonus points for style, I guess. I don't know if that's legal. I don't know if that's a legal racing technique, particularly since she got it rolling again and maintained the race lead over the 901 of Sarkin when the caution flag flew. I'll tell you what, race fans, in any other racing series, I don't think that would be legal, but sure enough, Ashley is still being scored as our race leader. You can see her here, side by side with Sarkin in the 901, battling for the race lead, and just decides to take a shortcut, and despite the damage to her car, she maintains the race lead over the 901 machine that actually went the correct way around the track. Let's take a moment, let's ride on board with Sarkin and see what all he had to experience through that caution. You know, you see him driving, there's the 88, he's trying to make the pass for the lead, and she just gets shunted into the shadow realm, and you figure, well, congratulations, you're the race leader now. Don't have to worry about a single thing in that 901 machine. Gets it turned around through turn 5, starts heading down hillside, and sure enough, there is Ashley, now without a rear bumper, but still the leader of the race. And sure enough, that's when the caution flag flew. I'll tell you what, race fans, those are some really ethically questionable race strategies we've got going on here, but I guess it's legal. I'm not gonna penalize her for it. That said, do we have any takers down on pit lane? We have Valnar down on pit lane and Kevin 11. And it looks like both of these stops are for damage, not scheduled pit stops, so we will be shortening the length of this caution. And we can't do it anyway because we haven't completed a full pace lap yet. So we're gonna wait here just a moment to let everyone complete the first full pace lap, and then we will be going from there to actually shorten down the race here. But in the meantime, though, thank you all for tuning in here for round 6 of season number 2. Glad to finally have the Ottercar AI Racing series in 60 FPS actually be watchable for once. It seems like the past couple of weeks, the computer has been doing everything in its power to try and stop Ottercar from happening. But we're finally here, finally watchable. Life is good. And sure enough, Ashley is going to decide maybe the shortcut might have backfired for her here a little bit. She's going to be taking the call to come down pit lane. I would not be surprised if race control gave her a meatball flag for too much damage. Don't know if I can recommend pitting inside of Kevin 11. I don't quite think that's where her pit box is, but you know what? Fair enough. Also going to be seeing Ame Sakuramori coming down, and it looks like this is actually a scheduled pit stop for the number 2 machine. Only 7 seconds in the box, so no tires for that number 2 machine, just going to be a splash of fuel to try and make it to the end. That said, going to be shortening the caution now, as we have completed a full pace lap, and the only drivers down on pit lane are drivers who have received damage. So the front row is going to be Sarkin and Madcap as your front row. That's going to be Ash with an E and Ash without for row number 2. Then it's going to be Rally in August, Chris Cox and Lake, Dwayne Day, and Oh You Know rounding out the top 10 for this restart. Gonna be 18 to go when we go green flag racing. Once again, going to only be 3 laps in the books, which is a little bit crazy to think about, but this is a lot like Road America, where there's just are these really long laps. So they don't go by quite as quick as you expect. Of course, only a 22 lap event. That doesn't sound like a lot, particularly with some of the short tracks we've been to, but here at these bigger speedways, those 22 laps are actually going to take a little bit of time for these drivers to make their way through. Still about half of a pace lap left to go, only making our way down through Knickerbrook for turn number 9. I'm going to be heading up into Druids and Lodge, and then eventually we're going to make our way back around to the start-finish line and get this thing rolling again. Probably would be beneficial to pull the track map up on screen so you can actually see where everyone is here on this speedway. If you want to talk about a real short track, there is always the Foster's layout here of Oulton Park, where the entire right hand of the track is just completely cut off, and that front straightaway just keeps on going down to where the chicane is there on that map. And that basically is the NASCAR oval of road courses. It's just all right turns the entire time around. I'll tell you what better racetrack design is there than a square? That said, finally making our way up through Lodge and... No, actually, yeah, that is Lodge. So we're heading our way down through Lodge. Pace car is going to make the big right turn down to the safety of pit lane, and we are going green flag racing once again here at Oulton Park. Drivers immediately darting around trying to find any sort of viable line they can here down into turn number 1. These restarts are the best places to make moves, and you can see that 26 of Rally making a big move there on Dwayne Day and August. Once again, heading on down into Cascades, and so far so good. Everyone navigating turn number 1. Now the big question is going to be heading down into Lakeside. Lakeside is where we've seen a lot of drama so far here in this race, but it looks like so far everyone's going to navigate Lakeside relatively cleanly, except for Ashley in that 88 trying to take the shortcut again, but not quite able to get the launch here in that 88 machine, so she's going to pull it back up on the track. Now stuck behind the blocker cars. That's not going to be doing her any favors here. Side by side heading down into Knickerbrook though. Big dive down into the chicane, and it looks like Ash is going to be losing a couple of positions there. Rally nearly making the pass on him as well, but falling back just a little bit. This is the battle for 5th with Dwayne Day, Ash, and Rally. Dwayne Day, currently our biggest mover of the evening, up plus 13 positions right now in that lime green number 4 machine. Also side by side for the race lead, Madcap and Ash duking it out down into Lodge, and it looks like Madcap is going to have the advantage here as we complete this lap. So Madcap, your new race leader, but Ash is looking to go on the offensive. Who knows how long this is going to last for. And we have Sarkin overdriving the corner here a little bit. He's going to go off the track in that 901 machine. Will we see him immediately rejoin, or is he going to slow down for the field? He is going to slow down for the field, so that's going to send Sarkin down to the tail end of the field, as the rest of the field makes their way on down through Cascades and Lakeside once again. And once again, we see Ash with an E side by side trying to make overtakes just about on every single part of this track. It does not matter where they are. He is trying to make some moves here. And again, Ash with an E, along with Ash without an E, who is up in second, both have locked themselves into the playoffs already, so they don't need to worry about getting a win to lock themselves in at this rate. They are pretty much just here for picking up a couple handful of playoff points, if at all possible. Of course, playoff points are awarded for top 5 finishes, so he at least wants to try and get up to the top 5 for that. But otherwise, it's just for bragging rights, effectively. Aside from those little amount of playoff points, once you've gotten a win to lock yourself into the playoffs, it really doesn't matter all that much how you do for the rest of the regular season. Now, of course, once the playoffs start in 2 weeks here, the gloves come off, and it is going to be every man for himself, completely cutthroat with each other, no room for error. But right now in the regular season, while the regular season's still going on, these drivers here in the playoffs don't have to stress all that much right now. This is still the closest battle for the Speedway as Ash still continues to find his way to ruffle feathers with every other driver on this track, it seems like. Now currently battling it out with the 420 of Oh You Know. As we complete another lap, head on down through into Cascades once again. That one machine of Med also getting involved in this battle, trying to pull away here a little bit, but not quite able to. Ash running a little bit wide down through turn 2, almost getting his tires down in the grass, and we have Ash off the track up here, trying to take the shortcut just the same way that we saw Ashley do it earlier. Not going to lose any positions, it doesn't look like. Sure enough, yes, he actually is. Slow on the pace, and here comes pretty much everyone. It looks like Ash might have some damage because he is off the pace here in that 030 machine, and he has fallen back down through the field pretty readily. A little bit further back, it also looked like that 330 of Lake had a bit of trouble. She's got it back out on the track and played in the right direction, but all the way down in 21st right now. But it seems like all the controversy and drama going on right now is the battle here in the mid-pack between August, Rally, Med, Ash, Oh You Know. All just throwing haymakers at each other here. Dwayne Day starting to pull away just a little bit from this battle. And Chris Cox up there as well in the 69. Currently a 5-second lead for that 38 of Madcap right now. As we have multiple drivers off the track. Ame is off the track, and it looks like Ashley's come back on. Well, we've had multiple instances now. It always seems to be Cascade where these drivers are just really making their mistakes, but so far nothing has been too terminal damage. They're all able to get back up on the track, able to keep things rolling in the right direction, and then that's half the battle sometimes here in Ottercar. I'll tell you what, that 69 of Chris Cox, though, is really hoping that a caution flag is going to fly here at some point, because it is now a 6-second deficit between our race leader and the rest of the field right now. Side by side, this is the battle for 10th between MF Beatus and Bloody Wolf right now. MF Beatus in that green and black 818 Logitech entry. Came into tonight's event at the tail end of the championship. That 818 machine, he is in a position right now where he has to win if he wants to make his way into the playoffs. There's just not enough time left in the season to make your way in on points when you're as far back as you are in that 818 machine. Right now, running in the 10th position, so who knows, maybe the top 9 can all figure out a way to implode and he can make it happen. Or maybe he'll just completely bamboozle the field the same way that we saw thirds do last week at Road America for the Cheese Rubber Grand Prix. Anything is possible. And speaking of thirds, thirds is off the track in that number 3 machine. It looks like she might have overdriven the chicane here a little bit. Take a look back, see what happened to our current championship leader coming into tonight's event. Sure enough, locks up the tires and just cuts the track here a little bit. Brings it to a stop, lets everyone go on by. Once again, Ame Sakramori off the track, and that is a completely destroyed front end. There is no way that 2 machine is not going to be requiring a tow. Surely, right? And what a dangerous time as well. Ame is going to take the tow, and we are going to have a caution flag come out in the middle of green flag pit stops. This is going to make things crazy here, race fans, and I'll tell you what, everyone who is on pit lane right now is absolutely kicking themselves in the butt for not waiting even 15 seconds longer is all it would have taken. But all of those drivers who came down pit lane now are going to be restarting at the tail end of the field here, as everyone who stayed out gets to make their stops under caution and not lose position. Let's take a look back. Let's see just what all happened to Ame to bring this caution flag out, because that looks like an absolutely nasty hit for that hybrid development team driver. And sure enough, looks like the 2-car tries to take the shortcut. No one's quite been able to find the secret launch pad that Ashley did in that 88 machine. It's quite possible that that was a one-time use launch pad. I don't know entirely about all that. Let's ride on board here with Ame. We've had several drivers now try to see if they can't jump the tires here down in Lakeside, and aside from the first attempt by Ashley, it's not gone so smoothly here for a lot of these drivers. We also got word of a couple of other drivers off the track. It looks like Chris Cox had an incident down in turn 1. And that's no big deal, just overdrive in the corner a little bit. No big deal. Then also we got word that limited time in the 44 McDonald's McRib had some trouble as well. I don't see anything out of the ordinary going on here, but race control told us that limited time crashed right there. So it looks like our folks over in race control might be having a little bit of a struggle here today. And I'll tell you what, drivers are now all over the place on the speedway right now as a result from the caution flag flying right in the middle of green flag pit stops. So we will not be shortening this caution until the field is able to get caught up here, just due to the fact that this actually has implications on strategy, unlike the last time where the only drivers on pit lane were the ones who were repairing damages from getting wrecked. But right now, we're having Chris Cox and August being scored as our front row, then Med and Ash 4th and 3rd. That's going to be Bluty Wolf, Pav, Limited Time, Deeg, Jeremy Albertson, and Drop Table Roster. Your top 10 as it stands right now. And actually looking around the track map, it looks like the only drivers we're really waiting for right now to catch back up are the blocker cars. And as we've established, the blocker cars do not have rights. And apparently we're still not done with the first pace lap, so we're not going to be shortening it anyway. No big deal. And in that case, we probably are going to be seeing some of these drivers pitting this time by. I thought that we'd already completed our first lap under caution, but evidently not. That said, while we're under this caution, let's take the time, let's look around at a couple of other notifications for incidences that we weren't able to get replays of here. Apparently, at some point, one of the blocker cars crashed by themselves. They're all having their own little race here, these blocker cars, and a little bit of a mistake for that one. Good thing the blocker cars aren't driven by real people that can't get hurt and definitely don't have feelings. We also had an incident for thirds a little while back, trying to get around the 030 of Ash and ending up in the grass again. No big deal there. We also had an R track for Sarkin earlier, apparently, in the 901, who looked set to try and take home this race, and actually that's a pretty hard impact for the 901 machine. And it looks like that is most of the drama that we had under that green flag run that we weren't able to get replays of. So jumping it back up to live, and sure enough, it looks like basically everyone is making the call to come down pit lane right now. Yeah, pretty much everyone is down. The drivers that elect to stay out are, let's see, Madcap, Dwayne Day, Rally, Sarah Something, and MF Beatus. And it looks like those were the drivers who all pitted under green, so they actually will be able to get back up to the front end of the field here. And it looks like the 776 of Valnar is going to be getting the lucky dog here, so he will get the... Valnar is going to get put back up on the lead lap here, as he was the first car being scored a lap down here. We're going to give just a minute for the field to get bunched back up, and then we will be shorting this pace lap down. So your front row here is going to be two blocker cars, which is going to make things very uncomfortable going down into turn number 1. That's going to be Madcap and Dwayne Day as your actual race leaders. Rally, Sarah Something, MF Beatus, Ashley August, Chris Cox, Ash, and Limited Time going to be your top 10 on this restart. And it looks like for the most part everyone's gotten their way caught back up, so we will be shortening this down for real this time. And going to be going green flag racing next time by with 11 to go here at the Oulton Park circuit. Just a matter of getting our way through the full 3-minute long pace lap. That is the one drawback of full course cautions on road courses, is it can take a hot minute for these drivers to get back around. I cannot imagine what a disaster it would be if we were at a track like the Nürburgring, where it takes 8 minutes to complete a lap under green. Under yellow, it would probably be closer to 20 per caution lap. But I think if Ottercar ran at a track like that, we would just make the rule that there will not be any cautions under any circumstances, period. About halfway around the circuit now, and there is going to be a whole lot of drama on this restart with these two blocker cars at the front of the field. The question is, will they do their jobs and actually block the race leaders, or are we going to see them just dart out of the way, try and run for cover, and not get freight trained by the about 20 Ottercar drivers that are still on the track right behind them, ready to go? Either way, heading through the final corner, and then we will be going green flag racing once again here at Oulton Park. And it is going to potentially be a little bit of a shit show when we go green flag racing here. Madcap and Dwayne Day both having to figure out what they're going to do about these blocker cars up in front of them. Green flag back up in the air, and immediately we just try and push it 4 wide with the blocker cars. Why not? It looks like the left lane is the one going to have the advantage here, getting around the blockers here. No, the right lane, excuse me, the left lane really struggling. They are stuck back there. Dwayne Day is falling back big time. Everyone just trying to shuffle their way on down to get around these Formula Vs at this rate. It is completely bunched up back here from about, call it about 6th on back, as everyone tries to navigate their way around these blockers. Whole lot of beacon and bacon down through Lakeside as we head on down into turn number 5. Make our way up through Hilltop. But everyone seems to be behaving themselves for the time being. Is actually, it looks like one of the blocker cars actually ended up getting punted off the track there. These drivers are really impatient with these blocker cars slowing them down. And they're going to start to make their way around them. It looks like maybe a little bit of trouble here in the chicane. We got a call that MF Beatus went off the track, but it looks like it might have just been dipping his tires in the grass because he is still running up in the 3rd position right now, with Madcap and Rally leading the way. And I say that Rally is off the track in that 26 machine. No damage to the 26, but that will be bumping them back down to the tail end of the field. So that's going to be Madcap and MF Beatus, your front row, as the rest of the field sails on by, heading on down into Lodge. And looks like we have trouble for Lake, potentially. Lake blocking it into turn number 1, currently being scored a lap down, and that damage is not going to help at all. Particularly since she is now blocking the field with that damaged race car, allowing the 38 of Madcap to immediately build up close to a 10-second lead now, courtesy of Lake being in the way of everyone right now. Finally, drivers starting to make their way around her here as we head on down Lakeside, going down into turn 5. But what drama we have had here on the track as we have a couple of drivers off the track. Ashley is off. MF Beatus also might be off here. Sure enough, MF Beatus going to be pulling it off the track. Ashley also getting back on the track as well. Bloody Wolf also off here in turn 5 in that number 93 machine with 10 laps left to go. And we have trouble for Madcap. Madcap has to go off the track because the 776 of Valnar just parked it on the raceway, and he's going to take the tow, so the caution flag is going to be coming back out. What happened to Valnar to make him park on the racing line and almost take out his teammate of the race leader? Take a look back here. Try and figure out what all went down here. Obviously, taking a look down here at Madcap in the 38. Everything's looking A-okay. And hey, there's his teammate just parked on the track. Believe it or not, you can't park there. So let's jump back here a little bit and take a look down at Valnar. See if we can't try and figure out why he's brought it to a stop. Let's try jumping back even further back then. Let's go even further back into the archives to try and figure out what the deal is with this 776 machine. Might have jumped a little bit too far back here, but this can let us do a little bit of investigating to figure out what the deal is here with that 776. And he is a little bit off the pace here, and he's also doing a whole lot of wibble wobbling. Bit unnecessary amounts of wibble wobbling at that. Almost parks it in the chicane, trying to make the corner. Really off the pace here in the 776 machine, but I don't understand. Hold on, let's ride on board with him here for a second. He ran out of gas. Race fans, he ran out of gas. I don't know how he pulled that one off. We literally were just under caution. He had plenty of opportunity to put gas in that car, and he didn't. So I declare it's his own fault for running out of gas here. Going to be bringing out caution number 3 on the speedway. And I have a hunch that we have not completed our first full pace lap, but we're going to give it a try. Can we shorten it? No, we cannot. So we got to wait another pace lap before we can go green flag racing once again. And that will be having us go green with 7 to go. Looks like currently we still have 16 Ottercar drivers still on the lead lap. Nope, we have 18 still on the lead lap. Just have 2 blocker cars in the middle of them. Right now, our front row going to be Madcap, Dwayne Day, Sarah Something, August, Limited Time, Chris Cox. So your top 6 so far are all drivers that have not taken home a win this season and have not locked themselves into the playoffs. Then back in 7th, we have Ash with an E, who has taken home a win. So with the exception of Ash being scored back in 7th right now, nobody in our top 10 has taken home a win so far in Ottercar, and no one in our top 10 is locked into the playoffs yet. There are a couple there that are close on points to being able to make it just on points, but with the remainder of this race and then next week's race heading to the New Hampshire Motor Speedway for the second of the 3 ovals on the calendar here this season, no one on points is actually safe yet. I don't think there's a single driver who has enough points to be guaranteed locked in. Now, these next 2 weeks are going to be a lot of drama as these drivers try and figure out who will be worthy of making their way into the Ottercar Season 2 playoffs. A couple of drivers back at the tail end of the field making the call to come down pit lane. That's going to be 3rd, Zoe and Deeg coming down. We also see Oh You Know, Drop Table Roster, Rally, Jeremy Albertson, Bloody Wolf, Ash, Lake, and MF Beatus all coming down as well. It looks like Lake's down here for some pretty substantial damage. And actually looking at that, it looks like Lake just took the just backed the car back up onto the hauler. It looks like she is retired here from today's event. And it looks like it's going to be Jeremy Albertson that wins the battle off pit lane for this whole field. Only a 6-second stop, so only fuel for Jeremy Albertson, just a splash. It looks like everyone else here elected to put tires on as well. I don't think tires are going to be that big of a deal, but sure enough, everyone from 14th on back to 21st just elected to put tires on. So we're going to have to see how that shakes out for them, see if that does anything to benefit them here. But we will be giving them the one to go here under this yellow. And it's going to be Madcap, Dwayne Day, the front row once again. There's something, and August Limited Time, and Chris Cox. And this time, they don't have any blocker cars at the very front of the field to have to worry about here. So it's just going to be a mad dash to the finish line for these Ottercar AI racing drivers. Does look like they're having a little bit of confusion on who is supposed to line up where here. We do have Madcap and Dwayne Day up at the front row, but further on back, everyone else is having a bit of trouble figuring out where exactly they need to be. Sarah Something, for some reason, is leaving a 3-car gap between herself and Madcap, which she doesn't need to be doing here. Looks like she's slowly starting to close it up, but it seems like the issue is lying with that blocker car, making the way these drivers line up a little bit weird. There we go. Now she's going to be pulling her way up to where she needs to be in the starting order. Just needed a little bit of motivation, apparently. No, maybe not. She's going to slow it back down again. Not quite sure what these drivers are trying to do here in terms of their pace laps. Dare I say that's almost a little bit of unsportsmanlike behavior, but you know what? It's out of my control. I ain't bothering to fixing it. We're going green this time by one way or another. Gonna be Madcap and Dwayne Day leading the field, and it looks like Madcap's not gonna have to worry about anyone contesting behind him at least. It's also good to see Ashley back out on the track, currently running in 7th, and it looks like she got a new rear bumper put on the back of that 88 machine. So the fact that she's running in the top 10 tells me that maybe that shortcut strategy that crippled her car maybe wasn't as disastrous as we thought it was. Who knows? We could see Ashley bamboozle the field even harder than we saw thirds do it last time. Green flag up in the air, though. We're going to be trying this thing again. And it's going to be Madcap and Dwayne Day sailing it down into turn number 1. Madcap has the preferred line here, but Dwayne Day is going to pinch down on that 38 machine really hard here. Dwayne Day is going to be our race leader heading on down into Cascade. Side by side now for Madcap and Sarah Something as Dwayne Day builds up the gap. But it's not building quite as considerably as I expected it to. And actually, he is now losing ground to this battle for the second position between Dwayne Day and Sarah Something in August. As we head down through turn 5 once again, head on down through the Hilltop straightaway, and then going to be taking on the challenge that is Knickerbrook. With 7 laps left to go here, we've pretty much officially gotten down into the no caution flags will be thrown stage of the race. Because again, we want these races to finish under green, and there is no option for overtime on iRacing AI races quite yet. So no caution flags after this point. I'm just going to go ahead and make that call now, because otherwise I'm going to forget to make it. Dwayne Day has now pulled it up to a 1.8 second lead here over Sarah Something in August. Currently up plus 17, plus 18, and plus 11 respectively. I'm curious to see if these drivers are going to be good to go on fuel here today, just because they're on such an off strategy from pretty much every other car in the field. August here actually did pit last time by under that yellow. Dwayne Day and Sarah Something did not. So we could see August be able to make something here. So don't discount these drivers back in third on back, because it's possible that we're going to see Dwayne Day and Sarah Something actually have to pit here in these next couple laps. Looking further back at the battle for fourth, though, Madcap, Chris Cox, and Med all pretty much nose to tail here through Lakeside. And Madcap starting to put the pressure down on August as well, as we have side by side a little bit further back. Big battles going on here in the mid-pack. Bloody Wolf, Rally, Ashley, Zoe, 2x2 through turn 5, and it looks like we have drop table roster off the track. And he's going to bring it back on. No big deal for the driver of the 369 machine. And once again, going to be heading down into Knickerbrook, and we're going to be seeing drivers making some big moves on each other. We see Queen Amatrine trying to work her way around Deeg in that 800, though she is not on the lead lap. Deeg is, so that is not a pass for position down there. As we make our way back up into Druid's Corner. Pretty much single filed out throughout the field, though, as we see Rally go off the track once again. Not the first time we've seen this driver make that mistake. No damage to the 26 as of yet, though, so they're going to be able to pull it back up on the track, but that's going to send him all the way back down to 16th position, as the battle for the lead is getting a little bit more dramatic. And sure enough, Dwayne Day and Sarah Something both have to come down pit lane. So does Madcap. Madcap also has to come down for fuel. So we're going to have August and Chris Cox leading the way. Chris Cox really wants to get up to this lead of the race because he's pushing so hard that he's willing to go off the track to make it happen. And he's going to have to figure out how to close up a 2.5 second gap between himself and the race leader of August. And once again, we find ourselves in a situation where no one in our top 10 except thirds has taken home a win at this track before. So it's still anyone's game here to potentially lock their way into the playoffs. As August pulls it up to a 3.5 second lead, we're looking back at the battle here for second between Chris Cox and Med. Pretty much nose to tail here. Zoe in this battle as well, but she's about a full second back from everyone. That said, everyone's going to send it in real deep into 7, 8, and 9 and lock it up a bit. We potentially have trouble for Ash. He's gone a little bit slow here on the track. But it looks like he is A-OK in that 030 machine, though back at the tail end of the field pretty much. Gonna be 5 to go here at the Oulton Park circuit, though. Clock is ticking for these drivers as August pulls up the lead to a 4.3 second gap now. Well, as long as he has fuel to make it to the end, it looks like he's going to be A-OK in that number 21 machine. That's just going to be able... The question is going to be who rounds out this podium, because this podium battle is getting mighty dang spicy here. Side by side a little bit further back, Limited Time, Bloody Wolf, and Deeg all duking it out for 6th right now. And we see Limited Time lock it up. Looks like he is going to be going off the track a little bit. Not quite as bad as I thought, though. Race leader of August has to make the call to come. No, August isn't making the call down to pit lane. He went off the track. August crashed out. So now Chris Cox is our race leader. Let's take a quick look back at what happened to August here. Caution flag not going to fly as we are in the final closing stage of the race. But sure enough, August overdrove the corner. And sure enough, that's broken left front steering. That's going to be August's race over just like that. Chris Cox is also off the track. So is Ashley. Ashley is completely turned around as well. Jeremy Albertson's also off the track. It is turning into a scrapyard out here, race fans. We told these drivers that the caution flag will not be thrown for the final couple of laps of this race, and now everyone's just going absolutely bonkers with each other because they know there's not going to be any repercussions. They know that they can get away with just about whatever they want here. And now we have Med and Zoe, your battle for the lead of the race. It's going to be Limited Time number 44, Bloody Wolf and Deeg, your top 5. Thirds back in 6th. It's going to be Pav, Oh You Know, Drop Table Roster, and Ash, your top 10 here, as we head on down into Lodge and get ready to be 3 to go here for the Ottercar AI Racing League at Oulton Park. Med's got it pulled up to about a... Well, Med's going to have to come down pit lane. Zoe now being scored as your new race leader, and she's going to be picking up a bonus point for leading at least one lap. Well, I'll tell you what, the pit strategies have been all over the place here this evening. The yellow flag coming out right in the middle of green flag pit stops really threw everyone's strategies completely out the window here. Now everyone's just trying to do the best they can to make it to the end of this race. The battle for the lead now is Zoe, Bloody Wolf, and Deeg. Your top three. Then Thirds is sitting back there in fourth. Thirds could somehow turn this into a 3-time win if she gets lucky in this. Deeg off the track. Deeg over driving Lakeside. No damage to the 800, but going to be a little bit slow getting it back up on the track. That's going to bump Deeg back down to the 6th position. Drop table roster also getting a little bit greedy going off the track there. So it's going back up to our race leader of Zoe. Heading down into Knickerbrook, right behind Bloody Wolf, about 0.8 of a second back. This is your battle for the race lead. And Zoe is a little bit off the pace here. That was bizarre. Zoe was really slow coming out of Knickerbrook. It looks like she's doing A-okay now, but that was a little bit weird to see. And again, that 666 entry is going lower than normal through these corners. I'm not quite sure what the deal is. Thirds is coming up hot behind, though. That 3 machine is on a tear and closing the gap incredibly quickly. Are we going to see a 3-time repeat winner here? This is a little bit scary to see, race fans. That said, Zoe, Bloody Wolf are electing to stay out. So whatever the deal is with these 2 cars, they're not electing to come down pit lane. Going to be 2 to go here at Oulton Park for the first of 2 visits to the United Kingdom here this season. And right now, it's looking like it's going to be coming down to Zoe or Bloody Wolf, as long as they have fuel to make it to the end, which, as far as I am aware, they should. But at this rate, who knows anymore? It has been complete chaos around the speedway. Rules do not matter. Nothing makes sense. It is a game of survival. And right now, it seems to all be coming down between Zoe and Bloody Wolf. And Zoe suddenly picking up the speed by a considerable margin, pulling away by almost 2 seconds in one corner, which is a little unnatural to see considering Bloody Wolf didn't actually have any issues going through that corner. Maybe we saw Zoe trying to fuel save or something to that extent. Madcap now off the track. Madcap, who looked like he had the race win in the bag. Pav also going off the speedway as well. It's just really crazy to see how much this race has been turned upside on its head. Zoe has somehow pulled away a 0.2 second lead to a 4-second lead over the course of half a lap, and Thirds is going to go off the speedway in that 3 machine. So it looks like her chances of taking home the win just got thrown out the window as manages to get around her. Drop table roster and Deeg also catching very quickly, trying to capitalize on that mistake that 3 machine has made. Zoe has to make the call to come down pit lane. So does Bloody Wolf. So does Are we going to see Thirds? No, Thirds has to come down pit lane as well as the white flag comes out. So does Drop Table Roster. The race win is going to come down to whoever manages to stay out on this lap and not need fuel. All we can do now is sit and wait. Who elects to stay out? It's going to be Med. Med stays out on the track. She thinks she has the fuel to make it to the end. She's going to overdrive turn 1. So is Dwayne Day. Both drivers going to overdrive the corner. And at this rate, those drivers that had to stop were able to come back out in front of everyone else because they both overdrove turn 1. So that's going to have Zoe scored as our race leader. Chris Cox right there is a lapped car. He is not involved in this battle. And Chris Cox is just going to kindly shunt himself off the racetrack to let Zoe sail to the lead with a 5-second lead. That pit strategy should have ended up in disaster. It should have exploded. It should have blown up in Zoe's face, and she should be finishing outside the top 10. And here we are, with both drivers that could have easily taken home this win without any issue whatsoever getting a little bit too excited and fucking up when it mattered most. And now Zoe sails away with a 6.5-second lead over the rest of the field. I'll tell you what, race fans, these Ottercar drivers never fail to just completely put together some bullshit strategies and make it work for them. Zoe should not be winning this race, pitting on the white flag lap. But here we are. The 666 entry of Zoe is going to be your race winner here at Oulton Park, and she will be locking herself into the Ottercar AI Racing playoffs. And then she's going to drive off the track in celebration. Good job, Zoe. You made it happen. Further back, here's a little bit of a battle coming across the line, not side by side at all. Gonna be Bluty Waltz there or something. Dwayne Day, limited time, rounding out your top 5 here this evening. Race fans, what the fuck did we just watch? What the hell was that? I have more questions than answers. Zoe attenuated her car and took the tow to pit lane. She won the race and immediately crashed out and called the tow truck. What an event it has been here at the Oulton Park. I think I understand why that Reddit thread said that they fucking hate Oulton Park. I didn't actually read the rant about it. I guess we should do that. While these drivers do their cool down lap, let's read the inspiration of this race right quick. I've got it pulled up here. Jesus Christ, I can't complete 5 laps on this goddamn track without losing control of my car, GR86, and or crashing. I managed to get to 1.2 IR and 3.5 SR since I started racing 3 months ago, and they fucking plummeted to 900 and 2.5 respectively this week alone. How do you deal with this fucking piece of shit circuit? Thank you so much, Reddit, for inspiring this wonderful, wonderful race here at Oulton Park. Everything was a disaster. Nobody's really a winner here. I think we've all been emotionally devastated by everything we've watched in the past 30 minutes. And somehow it's going to be Zoe that takes home the win. Fortunately now we once again find ourselves in the situation where we have to wait for everyone to go back to pit lane before we can actually pull up the race results, because the broadcasting software thinks that the race is still going even though that it's completely ended at this rate. So we're just going to have to give it a minute to wait and see. Eventually we will get our results pulled up and we can see how all of this experience is the only word I think is really appropriate for it, shakes out for these drivers. In the meantime, though, thank you all for tuning in to whatever disaster this was. Things get spicy, as next week we head to the New Hampshire Motor Speedway for the Why is the Canadian Anthem Playing 75, our second oval of the season, and our last race of the regular season before the Ottercar playoffs begin. And would you believe it if I told you we are still waiting for lapped cars to get back down to pit lane so that we can get our official race results. This was the same issue we had last week for the Cheese Rubber Grand Prix at Road America, where these drivers apparently just don't care that the race is over and keep turning laps. Lake and that blocker car finally making it on down to pit lane. Who all do we still have left to wait for? We gotta wait for the 11 of Ash to come back down. Then we have to wait for MF Beatus and Sarkin. MF Beatus going to be coming down pit lane, so that just leaves Sarkin and Ash to come back down pit lane as Ash goes off the track. Again, the race is over. This 11 car is not competing for anything. He's just still driving around. Still having a grand old time here. And Sarkin drove past pit lane. Because of course he did. Why would he not? And Ash goes off the track again. Ash, what are you doing? I know you're locked into the playoffs and I said nothing matters for you anymore, but what are you doing? The race is over. The race ended 5 minutes ago. That's not even the right off track. This is not that hard. My disappointment in these Ottercar drivers is immeasurable, and my day is ruined. Please just go into pit lane. I beg you. Don't turn another lap. Go into pit lane. That's all I ask. The race is over. Why are you like this? I don't get it. Okay, there we go. The race has officially been scored, is over. For some reason, they wanted Ash to complete that lap, even though the race is already over. Regardless, Zoe is our winner here on some of the most BS strategy I've ever seen, but she managed to make it work here. Takes home the win with an 8-second lead over Bloody Wolf, with Sarah Something rounding out the podium here today. Dwayne Day Limited Time rounding out your top 5. That's going to be Oh You Know, Drop Table Roster, Third Steeg, and Madcap your top 10. Then we're going to have Pav, Med, Rally Chris Cox, and Queen Amatrine, sponsored by Riot Games, your top 15. 16th going to go back to Ash, followed by Ashley. Ash, all of the Ashes just finished next to each other at the very least. 19th, 20th, and 21st. Not quite the Ash supremacy that they've been going for in previous weeks. And that's going to be Jeremy Albertson, Lake, MF Vetus, Kevin 11, Sark and Valnar, Ame, Sakura Mori, and it just keeps going here, race fans. And actually, no, it's going to be Ame Sakura Mori rounding out the tail end of the field here. What an event it has been here tonight. I think we're all mentally and emotionally exhausted. Ash is still driving around on the track, but it does not matter. The race is over. We know how things have finished out, and that is just about that. That's it. Thank y'all for tuning in here this evening. It's been one heck of a race, and I look forward to seeing y'all next week, where we have one last opportunity for drivers to make their way into the Ottercar playoffs. Have a good evening, race fans.